This week's episodes were brought to you by the generous support of Petrie Michaela. Hey folks, Quilly here, and welcome to another tutorial for how to use Git and GitHub to contribute to Project Porcupine. This tutorial will cover you whether you are a programmer, an artist, maybe just someone who wants to contribute to text files and localization, and any of that kind of jazz. Unfortunately, this updated tutorial, which is replacing the previous one, is going to focus entirely on the command line way to use Git. And the reason for that, the GitHub desktop, as we actually ran into in the previous attempt to do this video, has a couple of weird idiosyncrasies and potential deficiencies when it comes to synchronizing some changes with the original upstream version of the project. And as a result, there's quite a few people who are having trouble actually contributing in the way they want because they're not able to consistently get the latest and greatest version of things unless they constantly refork everything, which is really not the sort of thing that you should have to do at all. So let's talk about what this is. I'm going to start over from the start here. Project Porcupine is now on GitHub. This is the official Project Porcupine repository on GitHub. You can tell because it's part of Team Porcupine. This is the one true version of Project Porcupine at any given time, is represented by the Team Porcupine slash Project Porcupine repository, and specifically the master branch of that repository. Git is a really great distributed versioning system, and in Git there is every branch, every repository, whether it's on GitHub or on your computer or anything like that, is all treated exactly equal by GitHub. In terms of which branch is the official one and which repo is the official one, comes entirely down to convention. In this case, obviously, Team Porcupine, Project Porcupine, in particular the branch called master, is the one. In GitHub, or in Git, you always call the big, giant, primary branch the master one. And that's what we've done over here as well. All right, so this is that. How do you actually work on this project if you want to interface with it? Well, you're not going to be making changes to the project directly. You can contribute without making any changes to files yourself by filing issues, which can be bugs you've found, ideas you've come up with. The issue, anyone can open an issue as long as you've got an account on GitHub, and you can comment on each other, and it's really great and really useful. And so definitely use that. But pull requests is how you actually make a change, but you don't do that directly over here. Instead, what you're going to do, because you can't modify this project directly, you are going to fork it. If you are on GitHub, there's a button over here to fork that project into your own personal space on GitHub. And I have already done so. If I hit this button here, it's going to tell me like, well, I already have an existing one. So if I just click on that, it'll bring me there. But for you, normally it would create one. So now I am in Quill18/Project Porcupine, which was forked from the real one. And because I own this, I can do whatever the hell I want to these particular files, which is awesome. Really fantastic. So I can do whatever I want to these files, and that's, it's an open source project. I can have my own copy of Project Porcupine and be on my happy way. But of course, the main goal is for me to go and make some changes over here, and then go to Team Porcupine, the official one, make a pull request and say, hey, I think you should pull these changes into the official project. So that's what we're going to try to work through over here. Now, there's a very handy button over here that says clone or download. And this is present on every project, on every fork, everywhere. If you click on this, let's say you hit download zip. This is going to just download all the files in a zip file onto your computer. There, it's just going to be a normal Unity project. The same thing as downloading the zip files that I was attaching to all of my videos. The downside to doing this is that is not set up for you to then recontribute to the project. It's fine if you just want to dabble on your own, but if you actually want to interact on GitHub and contribute to the master project, that's not going to be good enough. Instead, you need a clone of this repository on your computer. It is worth noting you actually can make changes to files here on GitHub if you want to. In particular, this Git tutorial file, which is what we're going to be working with here, you can edit it here within your own personal GitHub, and that will work fine. But most likely, what you're going to want to do is actually clone it onto your desktop. So if you do have GitHub Desktop installed on your computer, which runs on Mac or Windows, you can click this link over here and it'll make a clone onto your computer. And that's actually not a bad way to get the initial set of files, but I really have to say after that I stopped being impressed by it, and probably there's a lot of people who have actually been having trouble getting their pull requests accepted because they're starting from out-of-date files, and I think it's because the GitHub Desktop is really being kind of wonky with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the command line version of Git. Now, if you're on Linux or the Mac, you can just, it's quite, frankly, Linux probably came with it. With the Mac, you do have to install, I believe, like the Apple development tools, like, you know, code setup. But if you just Google like installing Git on the Mac, that should be fine. For Windows, it's a little trickier because Windows doesn't really have a good like terminal program. So this Git for Windows build is really the package you probably want. Just Google Git for Windows. The address is here, gitforwindows.github.io. And the reason is not only does it come with the Git program itself, but it comes with Git Bash. This is basically a Unix style command line interface, very similar to what you'll have on Linux and the Mac, for example, that is a good environment for you to run Git within. So I would recommend that. And that's what I'm going to be using here on this Windows computer. And it'll look like that. So it is going to be text-based. And if you're a programmer, hopefully you can cope with that. If you're just here for, you know, the artist stuff or contributing to the localization file, well, I'm sorry to inflict the command line on you, but it probably is for the best. Okay. So how do we work it? Well, again, if you did go and open it in desktop, from there, there is, I think if you click on the gear, you'll be able to open a command line. But otherwise, for me on Windows, I'm going to go to my start menu and I'm going to run git bash. Git bash is the program, and it opens up like this. You'll be in some sort of location. Note, because this is a Unix-like command line, you're not going to see drives as like C:/ whatever. You're going to see it as like a folder. Basically, everything part of your root. So I am in a folder called C, i.e. the C drive, and inside of that a folder called sites. I can go wherever I want on my computer at this point. Let me make, I'm going to make a dummy directory here. GitHub_example. I'm just making an empty folder so that we can start from scratch. Oops, CD GitHub example. There we go. So I'm just in some folder that happens to be empty, and I can actually check that folder on my computer. Let's see over here, C/sites/GitHub example. There we go. So here it is in Explorer, C, sites, GitHub example. This folder is empty. That's all. It doesn't have to be an empty folder. Just, you know, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to start with that. So I want to go ahead and clone Project Porcupine. Now, because the clone I'm making, I want it to be a clone that I can edit and then push changes back to GitHub from, I have to start with my own personal copy, my own personal fork of the repository. If I clone Porcupine's Project Porcupine, well, technically because I'm the owner of it, I would be able to push changes back to it, but you guys would not be able to. Therefore, I'm going to follow the right way of doing it. And in fact, even when I work on making changes, I work on my own personal fork here so that I don't fork things up on the primary site. Haha, dad joke number one. So how do we get it? Well, this cloner download, talked about download zip, talked about opening desktop, but it also lets you, has a little text area over here, clone with SSH or HTTPS. If you know how to configure SSH with a public and private key to automatically log you into GitHub without a password, then SSH is awesome. If none of those words made any sense to you, use HTTPS. The difference here is that with HTTPS, when you do go and try to push your changes back to GitHub, it will ask you for a username and password at that time that you'll have to type in. So I will go with HTTPS to show you the process here. I use SSH because I am set up for it, and it saves me from typing 3 letters every time, or, you know, whatever for my login. So clone with HTTPS, it's got an address over here. You can select it, you can copy it. You can also hit this button to just copy it to the clipboard. Very, very handy. So this address here is going to be the source of our repository. So we are going to clone it. We are going to use the git tool. We're then going to type clone. We're then going to paste in. I can use Control V here in git bash to paste this in. Depending on your terminal and whatever, I mean, you may have to go here and try to paste. You may have to right click to paste. Depends on what your system is set up for. So I'm going to clone that repository. Again, I'm cloning Quill 18 Project Porcupine. So I'm going to clone that. And done. So now in my folder, I have nothing. What? Oops, I forgot to actually go into the subfolder. I guess that's okay. Oh no, I was in the wrong place to start off with. Was I? Oh yes, I am. I'm sorry. Oh, this is the wrong window. Haha. I had more than one git bash open. Let me try that again. Here's the one where we are in c/site/github example. I will now git clone this thing. There we go. So now I have a project. This is my GitHub example. It's got a brand new folder in it. And if I click on it, I can see all the files that belong to our project. Excellent. Now, this is a clone of my copy of the project. But it's actually not the latest and greatest version of Project Porcupine. I can see here, ignore the 7 commits ahead line is basically just garbage entries from merges and things like that. You can ignore that number effectively. But this is quite important. I am 1 commit behind the official repository. And the reason for that is there have been changes to the official Project Porcupine since I made my personal fork. And in fact, if you, at this point, things are going so fast, if you forked the project and walked away for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you could be a dozen commits behind the official project. Things are moving very fast right now. But that's okay. That's part of the reason, that's part of how it works. Before you start your edits, you will want to resynchronize to the master project. You can sort of kind of do it for the web interface, but we're going to do everything from the command line. It's important to note that my current command line version over here is completely and perfectly in sync with my personal repository. But I know that my personal repository is behind the official one. And even if I didn't know, the first thing I would do is make sure that my clone copy here on my computer is up to date with the official repository. And how do we do that? Well, in Git, if you type git remote. Oh, I'm not in the right folder. Project Porcupine. Git remote. It says origin. What is that? Origin is by default the name of the remote repository that you know the address to. In fact, if you run git remote with a -v at the end for verbose, it'll show the address. And you can see here, it's my Quill 18 Project Porcupine. So there's a remote version of Project Porcupine, i.e. not on my computer, at this address that has the nickname origin. And so this is how I can interact with pulling data from GitHub, from my personal repository on GitHub, or pushing information to my personal repository on GitHub. But I also want the official one. Now, if you happen to have cloned this project via the GitHub desktop, you will already have another remote in here called Team Porcupine, which you can use for exactly what we're going to do now. But if you're just working purely from command line, you will have to create your own. And traditionally, you would call that one upstream. GitHub desktop calls it Team Porcupine, like calls it based on the name of the account holder of the project. But traditionally you would call it upstream, which I'm going to do because it's slightly shorter to type. So we are going to git remote add. I'm going to add a new repository. And really you can do anything. I can call this one, I can call it Bob, and it's located at .com. And I hit enter. And that's, GitHub's perfectly okay with accepting that, or Git is perfectly okay with accepting that. Of course, if you ever try to pull anything from Bob, Git's going to be like, whoa, this is not working. So we want to get rid of that. So I'm going to say git remote remove Bob. Boom, there we go. No more Bob in there. So we're going to try this again. Git remote add. I'm going to call it upstream. Again, if you did get it from GitHub desktop, you'll already have one called Team Porcupine like that. But you can see it's a lot easier to just type upstream. And then it needs an address. How do we get the address of the repository? Well, we go to the official page. So again, this is my personal one. This is the official one. And on the official one, the clone or download, I can get the address of the repository. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste it in here. And now I have both remotes. Now, you will not be able to push data to the upstream. That is by design. You can't push it directly to the upstream. You can pull data from it whenever you want because it's a public open source project. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to make sure my copy of this on my computer, I'm going to make sure it's up to date with the upstream. And the easiest way to do that is to do git pull upstream. And then for various reasons, it may work just fine here. But traditionally, or what you may want to do to make sure, is you'll also want to specify a branch name. Branch is a very powerful tool in Git that lets you make sort of even more subcopies of a project. But there's always one branch that is typically called master that is the branch in all caps, the one that is the true and good branch in this case is going to be master. Note later on in our development, we actually may interact more frequently with a branch called probably Devil or Develop. We'll probably have one of those branches. But for now, you're going to want to make sure that your personal copy is in sync with the official master. So we're going to say that. I want to pull in all the latest changes from the upstream master. And it's going to do that. And it just pulled in a bunch of changes. The change I happen to know is a change that adds a metal smelter to the game, which is really, really exciting. So now pulled in a bunch of new files. It changed some of our existing files, but we're there. That's very cool. All right, sorry for the cut. Got interrupted partway through here. Just to establish where I hope we all are right now, we have downloaded a copy of the project, or rather we have cloned a copy of our personal fork onto our computer. We have added a remote reference as well to upstream. So now we have two remotes, origin and upstream. And by virtue of the fact that we have just cloned the origin, we should be fully up to date. There's a great command called git status that's incredibly useful. You're going to want to spam this a lot. It lets you know what branch you're on. It does tell you if you're up to date with origin/master. It does a little check against the server there. Now, because you're the only person who ever pushes to origin/master, unless you find yourself developing on more than one computer, which I do, I switch between my Windows computer and my Mac, you should always be up to date with your own origin master because you'll always be the one pushing to it from your computer. We don't know, though, if we are up to date with upstream. Now, if you have immediately just now forked the project and you have immediately just now cloned it to your computer, you should be up to date with the upstream unless something snuck in there in 30 seconds. But if it's been a while, maybe, the last time you worked on this was yesterday. Who knows how many changes just got pushed up to upstream between now and then? You have no idea. So let's make sure that our copy on the computer is up to date with the official Project Porcupine. And how would we do that? Well, probably the best and easiest way, if you are on master, is to simply pull in any of the latest changes from upstream onto your computer. And you do that by using git pull, and then you specify a remote. In this case, we want upstream. And then there may be cases where you don't have to, but then you specify the branch you want to pull. And we're going to pull from upstream's master branch, which, except for very, very occasionally when I'm making a little tweak directly, the master branch is currently the only branch that will that will be on upstream. Later on, though, we will likely treat the master branch as the current sort of stable release version, and we will likely have another branch called Devil or Develop, which is where people are going to be making more active changes. And depending on what you're targeting, if you're making a bug fix to the sort of official release version, then you will probably want to sync up to master. But if you're trying to implement a new feature that is going to go into the more experimental development branch, then you may want to sync to that. Right now, there's just master because we really only have an experimental branch, but that will be the flow later on. Right now, there's no such thing as a stable branch. That's why. We're just saving a little bit of typing by only having one. So we're going to pull against the upstream master and pull in any extra changes. Okay, there haven't been any. There may have been. But now we know that our personal clone on our computer is up to date with the master branch, which is great. Now, I want to make a change. If we go and look at my window, not there, where are we going to? Where's my folder? C sites, GitHub example, Project Porcupine, over here. We have this Git tutorial file. It's just a text file. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's what we're going to make changes to today. Now, we can make changes to anything. If you are working on an art asset, like a sprite, you might be making a change in Photoshop. Maybe you're adding music. Maybe you're making a change in Unity. It doesn't matter how you're changing the file and what tool you're using. In this case, it's just a text file, so I'm just going to open it up in Sublime Text, which is my text editor of choice over here. Of course, we could also make changes to this in MonoDevelop inside of Unity because it edits text files perfectly fine. But I'm just trying to emphasize you can use whatever you want to make changes to files over here. So this is a dummy text file in here that I'm using for this tutorial, and then I will get rid of in the project later on. And so I want to make a change here. It's got this line that says the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. I've decided that it would be more appropriate to capitalize these. And you know what? I'm going to write out 42 like that, because I have decided that this is the best way to do that. So I have made that change. How do I get this change to be included in the master project? Well, we're going to flip back over to Git, and we're going to type git status again. Notice that Git has determined that you have modified a file. It'll also notice if something has been deleted or something has been added. And what we're going to do now is we're going to want to commit these changes. But before we do, we're going to do one of the most important and powerful things you can do in Git and create a branch. Typically, you will want to create a branch before you start making your changes. But it works okay if you've started to make your changes and then you're like, oh, wait, I forgot the branch. It's okay. That workflow is fine. To work with Git, you don't actually need to make branches, but the workflow that we like for our project with GitHub will traditionally have you making a branch. So branch is just a split of a project that's got a unique name and usually has a name that involves whatever fix or feature you're working on. In particular here, I'm going to make a new branch. So we have one branch in our project right now called master. I'm going to make a new one. And there's a few different ways to make a branch. The easiest way to switch from one branch to another is to use the checkout command. You are checking out a branch. You're checking out either master or you're checking out some other branch. In this case, so I want a branch called something like answer cap fix. That's what I'm just calling the branch. You can call it whatever. If I hit enter right now, I should get an error. Well, there's nothing called answer cap fix. What are you talking about? Right, this is a new branch. It hasn't been created yet. And the easiest way to do it, put in a -b over here. We're going to check out a new branch called answer cap fix. And it does that. So there it goes. It has created this branch and switched us to it. And in Git Bash, it's very conveniently, it includes that branch name over here in your command line. If you're not on Git Bash, you can check what branch you're on with git status. On branch, answer cap fix. Cool. So now I have that. And the great thing about this is, okay, modified files stay modified as you switch branches. But once we commit this, we can switch between branches and, well, we're going to find out in a second. All right, so I have made this. I want to commit these changes so that I can bundle them up and send them to the project for confirmation. Now, Git is also really good if you're just working on your own because these commits also give you a way to roll back to previous change if you decide you make a mistake. So to commit this, we need to tell Git what files are going to be added to this commit. So we're going to use git add, and then I'm going to type in the name of the file, which is Git tutorial over here. So I will add that. If I check Git status, that file will now be in green. This has been staged as part of the commit. And then I'm going to make my commit by typing git commit. Now, if I just hit enter here, it will open up a text editor for me to make my commit message in. With my setup, it'll open up in a command line or a text-based program here in this just kind of DOS-style terminal called Vim. I believe if you were to just hit enter, by default on Windows, it would actually open Notepad for you. That is fine, and it's a good way to make a commit message, especially if it's multiple lines. But an easier way is often to just put in -m and then type in your message right over here. So my commit was changed capitalization on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy line. That's it. There you go. That's my particular message over here. So that's the commit. There, so now I've committed. If I check my git status, nothing to commit. Working directory is clean. Everything is up to date. Now this is in this branch. A cool thing, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close this file. We're going to confirm. If I just go to edit this file again, right? There's my changes. Everything is capitalized and it says 42. If I check out the master branch and I open this file again, well, yeah, it's the old version. And then if I go back and git checkout answer cap fix and I open this file, it's my new version. Now, again, if a file has just been modified, and then you switch back and forth between branches, it still has your sort of modified or dirty file in there. But once it's committed, switching branches, it will change which version of the commits you're on, which is a great feature. Because let's say you create a branch for a brand new feature. You're going to add some entirely new set of furniture to the game. It's really complicated. You know, you're changing a lot of files. You're doing all this work. And then someone comes to you and says, oh my God, something is broken. This one button doesn't work. We just need you to take 2 seconds to fix this button that is broken. It's going to be a one-line fix. What you do is you make sure you've committed all your changes, you switch to master, then from master you create a new branch that is just the button fix. Then you fix the button in that branch, you commit those changes, push them out to the server, and then you check out your new furniture development branch all over again, and you keep working from there. It's a really great little system. Okay, so now I have a branch that has made this change. How would I get this out to the server? Well, before we get out to the server, I'm going to make our life more complicated here, okay? This is not you. So far we have been following what you would be doing to make a change. I'm going to sidestep here and I'm going to become someone else. I am now someone else, and this someone else has made another change to the Git tutorial file. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to use my super ultra admin powers to do this very directly, which I probably shouldn't be doing. But I'm going to change this line to say 7 times 8 is equal to 42. Because. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to commit those changes directly with just update Git tutorial. And I'm going to do that. This is not something you would ever do. Okay? I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. But it's worth noting. So I am on the official Team Porcupine, Project Porcupine, and someone else made changes to this Git tutorial file. That line now says 7 times 8 equals 42. Let's get back to you at this point, okay? So you have just made these great little changes to the project. Excellent. And what if we were to try to push this out? So how would this work? How do you get these changes? This is your changes. We don't know yet that someone else has snuck in a change on our file. We have no idea. So we are going to make we want these changes to be submitted. So how do we do it? Well, what we would do is we would push this branch to your personal repository on GitHub. So we go git push origin. Remember, origin is your repository. And you're pushing out which branch? You're pushing out answer cap fix. We're going to hit that. At this point, if you used HTTPS, it will ask you for a username and password to do this. Username is that, and password, I actually don't know my password. I've got to go to my password manager. There we go, and paste that in like that. Excellent. So I have just pushed out this brand new branch to my personal repository. And I can go and check that. The easiest way is I could just go there. There we go. So this is me, Quill18/Project Porcupine. And if I look, there's a little branch pull down over here. I can see there's a lot of branches, but answer cap fix is the one we just did. And in fact, GitHub lets me know, hey, you recently pushed out this branch. Cool. Would you like to compare this to the official Project Porcupine and maybe generate a pull request for the maintainers of Project Porcupine to pull that into the real and official project? Yes, I would like that very much. If for some reason you don't have that, that's okay. You can also get there if you go and switch to that branch, answer cap fix. So now I'm on answer cap fix. And it's worth noting I can check. Let's check Git tutorial. Yeah, there's me with all the capitals. Excellent. What if I switch back to master? Oh, there's the old version. Excellent. Notice I do not have access to the 7 times 8 because the 7 times 8 version is not in my personal copy of the repository. It's just in the real one. And in fact, if I check Project Porcupine, this is my personal copy, I'll actually get a note right over here. I'm 1 commit behind Team Porcupine Master. That should be a hint that I'm not in sync anymore. That's okay, we'll fix that soon. Let's pretend we don't notice that. I want to push out answer cap fix over here. I want to make a pull request against the master project. So right over here, Team Porcupine/Project Porcupine, that's what I'm comparing it to. I'm getting a note right away that this will not work. I won't actually be allowed to merge this because there's a conflict. Why is there a conflict? Because the line that I changed is also the line someone else changed. So that's important to note. Also, we only made 1 commit. Why are there 9 commits over here? This is not actually a real problem. The important thing, let's confirm, only 1 file has been changed. The one and only file that has been changed is we quote unquote removed this line and added this line. Git doesn't know that a line has necessarily been changed. It just knows that the old one is gone and in place is this one over here. But it's got all these extra little commit messages in here. Why is that? Well, when you are keeping your project up to date, you end up with a bunch of these little merge messages in here. They're technically fine. They don't do anything. They will not hurt the master project. And if this pull request gets accepted, currently I have it set up for the pull request to squash all your commits into a single one. So you will in the end only appear to have one commit message. But it doesn't look very good, and it can be a lot more confusing for people to try to figure out what your changes were. Especially if you have multiple real commits in the middle of a bunch of fake commits like this. So how do we fix these problems? Well, so we're not going to commit this pull request right now because we want our commit to look awesome and cool. We are still going to ignore the fact that I cannot automatically merge at this point, okay? Because honestly, you might not even get this message yet. We'll talk about that in a moment. We're going to deal with some more issues. So how do we make this look a lot sexier? Well, in my Git locally, I am on my answer cap fix branch, right? Answer cap fix, and I have commits. I want to make sure that if I go into git log, well, is that what I want to do? Git log? I guess. If you do git log, you can see all of the commit messages. I don't know what the best way to explain it is. Do as I do, then, if I can't really properly explain it yet. We're going to use the git rebase command. What rebase does is it changes your current branch so that, you know what I need to do? I need to draw something. Let's get up paint. Excellent. All right, paint. Here is what our current repo looks like. Are we just on a brush here? Excellent. So we have a series of changes that happens from time to time. There's a change, there's another change, there's another change, and so on and so forth. But every now and again, when someone makes a branch, what can happen is you make a branch from here. We've made a branch, and then we made a change, and maybe another change. And then we want to push that back into the main repo, which it itself has had a series of changes since then. But that's okay, because what we can do is we can merge these changes here, like that, okay? And that's what our current setup is, and this is perfectly fine. And then you go here, and you continue forward, and everything is groovy. What Rebase does is it says, in the same scenario, over here, when we're ready to merge this back into the main project, what we want to say, instead of the fact that we started from here and then we were going to merge back in over here, what we're going to do with the rebase is we're going to change our source. Instead of the source being from here, is there an erase button in here? Yeah, erase. We're going to say, no, we're rebasing. We're going to make this the base that we came out of, like that. And then we're going to commit back over here, like that. And what that actually means is that our changes are simply going to look like they are right over there in one nice line. Makes things very clean, very sexy. So that's what we're going to do with rebase over here. So I'm going to rebase from the upstream master. So what this is going to do, it rewinds us a little bit, applies some fixes and orders, and then puts my final change at the end of this line. If I take a look at git status, everything is fine and clean. Excellent. So I will once again go and git push origin, that's my personal private one, answer cap fix. Okay, I'm going to push this revived version of this once again to here, and then to my password. This is why I use SSH, because I don't have any of these passwords memorized. Paste and enter. Okay. We actually get an error here. Why is it? We get an error because the branch on my computer and the branch online is no longer in sync, and they don't really know what to do with that anymore. In fact, it tells me that I'm behind, which is not accurate. So what do we do about that? Well, what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to go back to my own personal version of the project, which is this one over here, Quill 18 Project Porcupine. I'm going to delete the previous push of that branch. Answer cap fix. This is like, no. You know what? I'm going to just trash that, delete that branch, which still exists on my computer, of course. Right? And then I'm going to just try to push out answer capfix again to origin. Whatever my password is. And that's fine. Now it's totally happy because that branch didn't exist anymore because I deleted it, right? So if I go over here, it says, hey, you pushed out a brand new branch that I've never seen before. Answer capfix. This is my new one. Now if I go and try to make a pull request, it still says it can't automatically merge. We're going to ignore that. It's bad. Don't ignore this for reals. But I'm showing you this because it'll lead us to a bad situation that we have to fix, which is great. Change capitalization. If we scroll down now, we can see there's only one commit in here. Ah, nice, clean, sexy. One commit, it says that it only says that I changed capitalization on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxies line. Awesome. So again, I'm being bad and I'm ignoring this message here. Can't automatically merge. And I'm going to create this pull request. This is so much nicer of a way to write that line. Please try to be better with your commit requests, or people are going to say no to your pull request. So I'm going to create this pull request. At this point, it sends me, I'm now on the official Team Porcupine Project Porcupine page. And this is the official pull request here. P.S. This is for a tutorial. Please ignore. In case anyone else is coming around and reading this. There we go. So this is the official pull request over here, and anyone can comment on this. Other people can come in and say this change is great, this change is crap, or this change is good, but you kind of screwed up with your commits. You included files that shouldn't be included. You've got a bunch of extra commits. Maybe you could clean that up using a rebase command like we just did. Again, those extra merge commits aren't actually a problem. They just look confusing, and therefore it's best to avoid them. But there's some sort of conversation going on over here, and great. Now, if this were great and everything was perfect, me personally, not you guys, but me as the maintainer of this project and whoever else I get to have as a manager here, would have a green button here that says merge pull request, and they could bring that into the real thing. But you can't right now. It's grayed out. And in fact, you can see this message right away. This branch has conflicts that must be resolved. Now, here's the thing. It is entirely possible when we created our pull request that we would have had no errors. That, that red error that says, oh, this can't be merged because of conflicts, there may not have been that message. And in fact, when you get here, that when you first submit your pull request, this message may not say it. It might say this branch has no conflicts. Everything is awesome. It can be automatically merged. The problem is, between you submitting this pull request, someone else may have also submitted a pull request, and that other pull request might have been brought in first and caused a conflict. Now, it's worth noting that if the pull requests are in completely different files, there's not going to be any conflict. It's fine. Hell, even if they're on the same file but don't change the same lines, that is fine. They can both be merged. But in this case, some other change has changed the same line. Therefore, there's a conflict, so we can't merge it. Ugh! How do we fix this? How do we fix this? Well, you get a bit of a hint. This branch has conflicts that must be resolved. Use the command line to solve the conflicts. You can't open it in GitHub and think, but this is why, command line, this is going to be way better. Look, what happens if we click on this? We click on this, it actually tells you what you should do. Okay? It tells you, first of all, switch over to a new branch. Then pull in these changes. Actually, this is how to fix it for everyone, not necessarily just me. Technically, this would still work. Am I happy with this? I guess I'm happy with this. You know what? Let's give it a try. We're going to copy this and paste it. No, you know what? We don't have to do this. Let's ignore this. This is sort of what I would do as a maintainer. What are we going to do? Well, we know that there's something else that's happened. So let's go back to our project over here. And what does it mean? Well, while we did that rebase, right? We just did that rebase. We did the rebase based on what our knowledge of Upstream Master was at the time we created this project. We don't actually have the latest information from the server. It's a little confusing. But basically, behind the scenes, in a database on your computer, Git has what it thinks is the latest status of Upstream Master. But that doesn't necessarily represent the true latest status of Upstream Master. Instead, the way to do that is you can fetch it. Upstream Master. This will update your database behind the scenes. It does nothing to your current files. it just updates the database from the server behind the scenes so that your local database has the latest information from upstream master. If we do a git status, nothing has changed here. Everything is fine. Everything's the same because we haven't actually merged those changes in. If we want to bring this directory up to date, we have to merge the data that was fetched. And we could do that with a git merge upstream master. It's worth noting when we do git pull upstream master, that's exactly the same. A pull is a fetch followed by a merge. So by doing git pull upstream master is really all you need to do here. We want to pull in the latest changes into our current directory here. So we're going to do that. And it's going to say, whoa, there's a conflict. There's a merge conflict in Git tutorial. Automatic merge failed, fix conflicts, and then commit the results. Git status. Both modified. One of the previous commits to the master and one of my own commits to the master both modified Git tutorial and both modified the same line, causing huge problems. How do we fix this problem? It's actually not too hard. What you need to do is reopen that file. So if you reopen that file, you'll see all this noise. What the hell is that? Well, this shows you both changes to the same line. This one here is our line. We know that. That's our line. This is a line that someone else put in. And you have to decide which one is correct by modifying this file at this point. You can do whatever you want. We could get rid of all this. So you say, you know what? Both of them are crap. Or maybe we need some other option here. Let's say we decide, you know what? We're going to go with a different quote. Space is really big. We can do that. Or we can decide, let me undo. We can decide, you know what? That other person's line is better. Let's get rid of all this and only leave his line in here. Or I can decide that, you know what? Mine is the best, which is what I'm doing here. Mine is the best line. So either way, doesn't matter. Make your changes to whatever. I mean, you can rewrite the whole file. We can, put in a bunch of lorem ipsum line after line after line after line. You can do any kind of changes you want at this point. But at this point, you're acknowledging the conflict in some way. So we're just going to leave in our changes. We're going to save that, and then let's do a git status. Still says both modified. That's okay. What we have to do is add. We're just doing another commit. We're re-adding this file to our commit. We are recommitting. I'm putting in a message that says resolved the 42 conflict. And hit enter. There we go. I have a new commit at this point. And then what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to push to my origin, to my personal repo, the answer capfix branch. Again, it's going to ask for my password. Do I still have it on my... Nope, I don't. Nope, cancel. Hang on. Oh, right, because I pasted... So I grabbed some other stuff onto my clipboard. Where's my password again? Grrr. There it is. Paste. Go. Okay. So I've just pushed out this conflict resolution to my personal repo. What's great about this is because I'm pushing out to the same branch, GitHub, I'll refresh just to make sure it's all up to date, GitHub has picked up the new commit over here. This is my original commit, change capitalization, and there's been a new one, resolve the 42 conflict. And in fact, if I look here, there are two commits, this one and that one, which is good. And the file change, I can see, confirm that the current status, now the file change represents removing this and adding that. So at this point, I'm good. Again, branch has no conflicts. You guys should see this. This green button, again, is what myself or one of the other maintainers might see. So you might have gotten a message at some point of like, oh, this change looks really good, but I can't accept it because of the conflict. Please fix it. That's how you fix the conflict. You make sure that you have pulled in the latest version of master, resolve any conflicts, recommit, push it back to your personal branch. It automatically updates the pull request, and then one of the maintainers will come over and says, oh, what a great contribution to the project. You are the best. Or, something else equally encouraging. Or maybe they'll say, you're crap, we don't want this, and they'll just close it. Okay. They won't say you're crap. Obviously, they're going to say, now there's still a problem, or this is not bringing us in the direction we want, or something like that. But, most of the time, it's going to be, yes, this is great. We're going to hit, this is just, they've left a comment. Excellent. But they're going to hit the magic button here to merge this. And they are responsible for adding some extra details about this particular commit. This is not something you have to worry about. And then they will hit this button. And then this will happen. Pull request successfully merged and closed. And then this, I believe, this is now your view of this. You can now delete that branch. You don't have to keep that branch anymore. See, you're all set. This branch can be safely deleted. So this is back to you. You're going to delete the branch to clean up your particular repository on GitHub. You still have your one on the computer, it's worth noting. So I've deleted that to clean that up. And if we look at the real project, again, this is the real project over here, and we look at GitHub tutorial or Git tutorial, boom, the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. That's our changes. Great. What about our private repo here on GitHub? This is my personal copy of Project Porcupine on GitHub. Open up Git tutorial. No, it's still the old one without the capitalization, which makes perfect sense because we've made this change here, but we pushed it out to a branch. We deleted the branch now, I forgot. We deleted the branch. We pushed out to a branch, but we never pushed out to our master. What's the best way to update our own copy of master? Well, the best way, first of all, is to switch back to our master branch. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pull the upstream master information, which includes the changes that we made and were accepted to the master one, to the official master, and then we're going to push to our personal origin master these changes. And then we'll type in, I hate typing this stuff in, which is why I use SSH. There we go. And now if I take a look at my personal Quillitine Project Porcupine Git tutorial, there it is. Everything is capitalized. So I'm back in sync. Now, that's the interesting thing is your personal project over here, you don't need to keep this master in sync at all. You can actually delete the master branch and never ever use it in a really bizarre way. The only reason you need this is so that you can push out other branches so that you can create pull requests. But in practice, you probably want to keep your master branch updated just because it's very, very nice and convenient. But there we go. That is how you make the changes. That's how you keep everything neat and clean. Avoid adding more files to your commit than you need to. One of the things with GitHub Desktop is by default, the button is all set up to add like all change files, which is often not what you want. Likewise, if you're on a command line, I was telling you to use git add, some file name.txt. You're adding that to the commit. There is actually a key. You can go -A. It will add all files. But you want to be careful with that because every now and again, for reasons, a file you didn't mean to change gets changed. This can be very common when you're working in Unity, where you might be testing out some stuff in the inspector or moving some things around the scene, and all of a sudden the Unity's scene file got changed, even though your actual commit doesn't require that. So only add the files that you want to push out officially to your commit and push those in. When you make a branch, so you can't use git rebase upstream master. You can use in your master branch, but it doesn't really help you do anything. I mean, it sort of does, but then when you try to do the git push origin master, you'll get some weird wonky complaints. Instead, though, when you go create, check out, be my new branch, after you do this, it would be a great time then to do a rebase. Make sure you've fetched upstream master, then rebase to upstream. And if you go upstream master, it gets confused because it thinks it's a file. So do it this way. Git rebase upstream master. It'll rewind everything, put your work on top of it, and then you can make changes as usual. When you try to commit, when you try to make a pull request, there may or may not be conflicts. Make sure you git pull upstream master again to get the latest changes. Resolve any conflicts. You're going to open those files. You'll look for the funny tags. You will decide what is supposed to be there. Then you will once again add your file to the commit, make a new commit. And again, if I just hit git commit here, well, I don't have any changed files, but if I did, it would open up Vim. I think for you, it would open up Notepad, which would be perfectly fine. Or you can do it on the command line by typing a message like this. And again, there's nothing to commit, so it won't actually do anything here. So that's good. And then you would git push to your origin my new branch. I'm not going to hit enter here because it actually would. And then you go to the website and create your pull request. I hope that is clear. I'm afraid it's probably super confusing and I'm really sorry. But this is the bulletproof way to get this done, to make pull requests that are super clean, that are more likely to be free of conflicts, and this is also how you resolve conflicts, which can happen, especially right now. There's a lot of people pushing in a lot of changes because the program is still very early on, and the program's still relatively small and tight, so most changes are going to impact the same files. But already, more and more features and more files are making appearances, which means it becomes less and less likely that any change that you are working on is also going to be worked on from someone else because they're working in some completely different part of the program. We're just making some very major sort of baseline changes right now, so conflicts are a little bit more frequent, but you can see resolving them not that hard. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much for continuing to contribute to this project. I appreciate it so much. It's scary. It's like, you've been guiding your child, raising your child, in this case, Project Porcupine, from birth, and you're trying to instill good ideas, and you hope you're teaching them right. You don't know, really, and then you send them off to college, and then they go and evolve on their own. With every pull request, I'm losing more and more ownership over the program. This is a program that's growing on its own, and that is scary and terrifying. It is scary and terrifying, but it's also good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Project Porcupine grows up to be. Of course, I'll still be really involved, but, more and more I'm going to get lost because this is going to become a very complicated program, and that's great. Anyway, I'm going to spend the rest of the evening probably pulling in some more of these pull requests. You guys make awesome patches over here. Look at this. Tons of stuff being created. So I got to go and make sure that they're not buggy, and then pull them in as much as possible. Wow. Exciting times. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Thank you everyone who continues to make Project Porcupine a reality by supporting us on Patreon. You guys are supporting us through August and early September, and including these mic check supporters, we've got Drazion, Jan Torivel, Julian Auger Lafont, Craig Mortel, Neil Blakey Milner, Ole Peter Talgo, Wes Oldenboving, Kale the Quick, Valiant Cake Fiend, Aaron Toiveson, Michael McClintock, Marius Fieldvold, Speedy Savant, Jason Yanity, Adjective, Steven Stager, Kupro Panda, Yuko Finn, and absolutely everyone who's watched, shared, favorited, and subscribed these videos. I appreciate you very, very much.